Heliocentrism has never been proven. It's a religion. Of course, not a religion about some personified God. A religion is defined as being a belief system built upon the doctrine of men without any actual verifiable evidence. It requires belief and faith. It requires belief in something that you can't directly empirically verify. And that's the idea that the Earth is a tilted, wobbling, spinning ball flying around the sun. Contrary to popular belief, it has in no way been proven. We're going to get into it. Here is a bit of a timeline. Now we have an entire stream, a previous episode where we broke down each one of these events, but I just wanted to kind of cover some of the basics here so you get an idea of really where this came from. Oh, we knew the Earth was a globe thousands of years ago is what you'll hear. Okay, so we have the globe Earth inception in 350 BC, and this is, of course, as we know it, history as we know it. Then they supposedly found the distance to the sun in 250 BC, and you have Eratosthenes right after that. And when they first supposedly found the distance to the sun, of course, it was completely wrong compared to what they claim it is now, which is supposedly 93 million miles away, which is a joke. They'll tell you Eratosthenes proved that the Earth was a sphere. Of course, he did no such thing. Looked at two shadows. The story is just completely ridiculous. There's no primary documentation it even happened, but it's a very convenient narrative to tell people to try to make it look like flat Earth was disproven by Greeks so long ago. You have the first globe model hundreds of years later, all the way in 1492 is when you get the first actual physical globe model, which was just like laughable and disproportionate and deformed. But it's interesting, the narrative that we're told when you actually look at it. The first physical model of the Earth being a globe ever made was in 1492. Then you get the Copernican model in 1543, and that's the idea that we're flying around the sun, right? That the Earth is orbiting around the sun is in the center. Now, of course, they thought that the sun was in the center of the entire universe, and they've since had to change that. And then we get Kepler's laws. That's the laws that explain the planetary motion in terms of kinematics. And if you're not new to this channel, you know that kinematics are just how bodies move in relation to each other. People looked at the sky, saw that there's a ratio with how these things move, and you can actually, create an equation to describe that ratio, and it'll accurately, quote unquote, predict, although there is no prediction, they just keep doing the same thing forever. Based on their proximity, they move in relation to each other and move in relation to the sun. He found a set of equations to map that out. And then they estimated what the size of Venus was, the distance of Venus, and then they just said, you know what, to try to make this model, we're just gonna assume the Earth is the same size as Venus, exactly the same, which is really scientific of them. 1666, Newtonian gravity, supposedly discovered gravity. There was no discovery. He didn't discover anything, or that would require he'd be the first one to ever see something fall. But anyway, so that's where you get 666 newtons on the Earth, or 6.66, and it's rounded up to 6.67. It's the same year the Selenilian eclipse was first documented, conveniently enough, which also debunks the globe. Michelson-Morley, 1887, ionosphere, 1901, relativity, 1905, special relativity, 05, general relativity, 1915. NACO was founded in 1915, predecessor to NASA. You have the expanding universe theory come up to try to explain why everything makes it look like we're in the center of the universe unexpectedly. 1925, around that time is where you have Hubble looking out further into space and discovering they have a problem. 1931, the Big Bang Theory, dark matter to save the model because relativity's predictions were off by 99% when they looked at the galaxy clusters. Now, this is where it gets very interesting. You get to 1945, Operation Paperclip. You got the government bringing people over, bringing Nazis over. They put paperclips in different folders to have them integrate into the United States in different positions, right? Engineer, scientists, etc. So then you have the very next year after bringing them over here, they go explore Antarctica, Operation High Jump. And the CIA was founded the very next year. The CIA was founded the very next year. Now we know they do stuff like Operation Mockingbird, and they literally propagandize the American public. And then you have the Mars Project, written by Wernher von Braun, one of the people brought over in Operation Paperclip, an SS officer of the Nazi regime. And in this book, the main character's title is Elon, and he founds the first civilization on Mars. So just a coincidence there. Then you get to 1952. NSA was founded, and then 55, Operation Deep Freeze, go back to Antarctica. They ended up founding the first American base there called Little America. Then you have the DEW system in 1957. That is where they started actually monitoring the north. So they go out to the south, and then they come back out to the north, and they put up it's now called like the North Warning System, but there's basically a trip line around the North Pole, and they monitor anything inside of a certain latitude, right? And then you have NASA, founded in 1958, the next year. And then in 1959, they signed the Antarctic Treaty, so now they're monitoring the inside and the outside. And then you have the DIA founded in 61, Operation Fishbowl, high altitude missiles. Of course, that part of Dominique, which translates to of the Lord. So Operation Fishbowl of the Lord, they shot high altitude missiles up. And then we got in the 30s, we actually have documents now that are declassified that says that they had approximation methods to determine the brightness of the firmament that were proven accurate, and that it has different zenith measurements, meaning that there's literally a distance, a zenith measurement to the firmament above you, and that they were able to accurately map it out. And then we get over to the JFK moon landing announcement, 1962. 67, there was a space treaty signed. In 67, you have Gus Grissom dying after saying we can't go to the moon, that it's ridiculous. Then 1968, 2001 Space Odyssey comes out, film of the year, basically propagandizes everyone to believe we're about to go to the moon. And also Newsbenders comes out where they tell you everything about space is fake in 1968. Then 1969, they supposedly go to the moon, and then they see the Earth from space, confirming the Earth is allegedly a sphere in 1972 at the tail end of the Apollo missions, and that's really like the only claimed real picture of the Earth from space for decades. Okay, so there is the timeline.